I'm getting straight to the point with how terrifying this is. The Alabama State Supreme Court has ruled that these embryos are the same as these. Yeah, we need to unpack this and talk about how this is affecting IVF in the state of Alabama in this video. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dr. Jennifer Lincoln, board-certified OBGYN, author, educator, and living in perpetual fear in the United States as someone with a uterus. Just kidding, I'm not actually. I had a completely different video scheduled for this week, but when the news came out of the Alabama State Supreme Court decision saying that embryos are children, and as such, if you destroy an embryo, it's like manslaughter or murder, I had to talk about it. So, what the fuck is happening? Should you be terrified? And what should you do, not only if you're living in Alabama, but anywhere, because it's coming for you next. So let's chat. Here is the background of this case. In 2020, 3 couples had their embryos destroyed accidentally in a reproductive clinic in Alabama. Somebody broke into the lab where the embryos were frozen, dropped them, and the embryos were destroyed. That is heartbreaking. The couples then wanted to sue the clinic, saying that their embryos being destroyed fell under the law wrongful death of a minor, which means that they were equating embryos with children. Now, we can agree that what happened to their embryos is heartbreaking, but we can also have feelings about how that was interpreted. And a judge in a lower court said, no, that doesn't hold water, and rejected that. In comes the Alabama State Supreme Court, who reversed their decision this week and said the opposite. The ruling cited the Bible, because that's where we are now. Now we're citing texts of the Bible to influence law in the United States, where we're supposed to have separation of church and state. Confusing. So the Alabama justice's decision said this: under the black letter law, the Wrongful Death of a Minor Act applies to all unborn children, regardless of their location. It applies to all children, born and unborn, without limitation. That's a little scary. You can see here the text where they wrote in a decision quoting the Bible, which, if you want to believe in the Bible and if you're a Christian, good for you. But could you imagine if somebody quoted the Torah or the Quran as a basis for Supreme Court decisions in the United States? People would lose their mind, but somehow this is okay. It says that we believe each human being from the moment of conception is made in the image of God, created by him to reflect his likeness. I don't know if these justices have been inside a cryogenic lab where embryos are frozen, because again, this is what they look like. But in my mind, I'm thinking, are the justices picturing this or this, which was a very weird movie, but it's not how it works. So if you're like, big deal, Dr. Jen, so because of this, if people have IVF and they have extra embryos, they can't destroy them, they'll just have to stay frozen, or like, who cares, right? Here's why you should care. This is essentially going to shut down IVF in Alabama. And at the time of this filming, that is already happening. The University of Alabama at Birmingham has already suspended their IVF procedures because they say, rightfully so, they don't know if patients or providers are going to be prosecuted. So lawyers are having to figure this out. And that sucks because people who had embryo transfers scheduled for this week had to have them canceled. And IVF is not a super simple process. Here's an image of what it looks like. And the very brief version is that if you need to undergo IVF, you've likely gone through a bunch of treatments and tests and very invasive things in order to try to grow a family, which is what? Oh yeah, pro-life. And so it's not just that you get one egg and then you fertilize one egg and then you implant one embryo. You could do that, but your chances of success are very low because all along the process, things naturally don't make it. They don't survive, or they're not genetically normal, or you can put an embryo in somebody and it may not take. So in order to achieve the most successful rates and also make this cost-effective for people, IVF can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and is almost never covered by insurance, and also makes it easier on the people undergoing it because this involves injections and blood work and vaginal ultrasounds. The way that fertility physicians manage this is you get a bunch of eggs that are stimulated in the ovaries. Those are then retrieved. Those are then fertilized. If you want to do genetic testing, you can then do that and then see which embryos have normal genetics and are growing the best. And then you implant 1 or 2 of those. And if you have more and you're lucky, you save the rest for later, maybe for years down the road. What this Alabama law is saying is that if these embryos are children, can you do this? So hear me out. If you have a genetically abnormal embryo, Are you going to force people to implant them? Even if you know it's never going to result in a baby or a normal baby, maybe we know it's got a life-threatening genetic disorder. Are you still going to force people to transfer that embryo? Because according to this ruling, you can't get rid of that embryo because that would be murder? What? Are you going to force people to now only retrieve and fertilize that one embryo because they can't destroy the rest? And I'm using the word destroy. That might sound very cruel, but this is normal in the process. When people are done completing their families or embryos, they get embryos that are not normal, they destroy them, or they could donate them to research. This is very normal because they're clumps of cells. And what are you going to do? Force people to store them indefinitely? Who's going to pay for that? That's thousands and thousands of dollars. Is the state going to pay for that? Can people who have embryos claim them as tax credits because they're children? What about that, State Supreme Court? What happens if in the thawing process of frozen embryos, some of them don't make it? Is that embryologist liable for manslaughter? If patients say, oh my God, get my embryos out of Alabama, which some already are, and they transfer them to another state like New York and maybe destroy them there, can the state of Alabama hold them liable and prosecute them? Can you not even freeze embryos anymore because you can't freeze children? Like, do you see how crazy this is? Are people, if they get, let's say, 6 healthy embryos, are they forced to transfer all of them? And then you end up with Octomom, which I know is an extreme case, but even transferring 2 embryos or 3 leading to twins or triplets, these are high-risk pregnancies. The goal of fertility is to have 1 baby at a time, because even though twins sounds very sweet, lots of risks, not ideal. And I want to wrap this around here. This is happening in Alabama. Alabama is already one of the most dangerous places to have a child. It has some of the highest maternal mortality rates, some of the highest preterm birth rates. It is the state that criminalizes pregnancy the most for things like miscarriages and substance use during pregnancy. They love to throw pregnant women in jail. They also have a total abortion ban, and sex ed is not required. And now you're going to outlaw IVF too. It's crazy. Don't be that person who's like, well, you voted for it, just leave. Gerrymandering has led to a lot of things here where people who in no way have this opinion now are being represented by people who are very extremely conservative. And also the poorest people, the people most harmed, can't just pick up and leave. And I'm speaking to people who beforehand might be like, actually, I'm pro-life. I hate abortion. I'm voting that way. And now it's affecting you because now you may need IVF. Or you're realizing, whoa, this is getting creepy. This isn't what I signed up for. This is too extreme. I encourage you to reconsider, to talk to your friends, to understand that you can not agree with abortion, but maybe pull back a little bit and think, I got to stop voting this way because they are coming for birth control next. Just wait. They're coming for morning after pills. They're coming for IUDs. Y'all said we were hysterical when we said they're going to come for IVF, and now they have. Hello, this is where we are. So to sum it up, some crazy justices in Alabama have now said that embryos are children, which is greatly going to impact people who are actively trying to build families, which once again is very pro-life. Makes no sense, but it is all tied into the movement of controlling our bodies. It's never been just about abortion. It's about control. So what can you do? If you're in Alabama, you can vote accordingly. You can share your stories. You can call this out. You can talk to people who maybe identified as anti-abortion and now are going, this is too much. We need to get a bit more moderate here. We need to maybe think about who we're voting for. You can also be prepared. You can make sure that your kids have access to good sex education that you can provide in the home. You can make sure that your kids or yourself have good access to contraception, abortion pills if you need them, things that I've reviewed a lot of times in other videos here. The most important thing you can do is keep paying attention and understand that when we tell you that these things are coming, we mean it. And we need you to show up and to not give up and to keep fighting. Until next week, stay safe, everybody.